In 2019, fast fashion giant Forever 21 filed for bankruptcy. The company cited decreased sales and increased online competition as some of the reasons for the filing. At the time, some experts believed this move signaled a decline in the popularity of fast fashion. After all, in recent decades, there's been a big push to crack down and expose the toll of this industry on its workers and the environment. However, fast forward 3 years later, and there's been little slowdown in global fast fashion sales. While Forever 21 has stayed in the purview, several other mass-market fashion brands like Princess Polly, Shein, and H&M are reporting record sales. Just this past spring, the Chinese clothing giant Shein was valued at $100 billion. The online-only company has seen massive growth by constantly pushing out thousands of trendy styles at bare-bone prices.
The void, the void of companies like Forever 21 going under is simply filled, and Gap, which is teetering fast, and Old Navy, which isn't in very good shape, by these new versions. It's like zombies, these new versions that come up and they're faster and cheaper and more impactful and more polluting. And it's just kind of amazing. And they're growing so fast you can't even keep up with the figures.
That's Dana Thomas, longtime fashion journalist and author of Fashionopolis, The Secrets Behind the Clothes We Wear. Thomas says these newer fast fashion names specifically target younger shoppers on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. While many millennials and Gen Zers seem to care about sustainability, climate change, and some fight for fair wages, why do so many young people still fall for fast fashion? Thomas believes not enough consumers understand the full scope of damage caused by this industry. On eye level, the flashy marketing, cheap prices, and constantly changing trends makes it all too easy to buy into these brands.
If it seems like the price is too good to be true, it is too good to be true. Look at it askance and ask, why is it so cheap? Because somewhere along the way, not just somewhere along the way, all along the way, nobody was treated as well as you would want to be treated yourself.
Last year, the world's second-largest fashion retailer, H&M, raked in more than $23 billion. It recently publicized that it's aiming to double global sales by 2030. But who are the people driving these sales? Who are the workers creating these clothes? A large portion of the company's garment factories are located in Bangladesh, where the average pay for an H&M factory worker is about $86 per month. Compare that to the living wage in the country, which is about $200 a month. Meanwhile, the company's chair and former CEO is estimated to be worth around $1.5 billion.
They're still the largest contractor in Bangladesh, where the average garment worker earns less than half a living wage. And we can't solve poverty if companies like H&M are only paying half of what families need, workers need, to house, clothe, and feed their families.
Thomas notes that the fashion industry employs 1 out of 6 people on Earth. This includes employees in textile manufacturing, clothing production, or at a retail location. Many of these workers are living paycheck to paycheck or are simply not getting by. Thomas says there is progress happening to increase wages for garment workers. Within the U.S., one of the prime examples is in California, which is the largest garment production center in the country.
In California last year, Governor Newsom signed into law the Garment Workers Act, which holds brands accountable when factories in California do not pay workers the state minimum wage. And I think the state minimum wage now is about $15 an hour. It's working its way up to 15. I'm not sure if it's all the way there yet. Before, brands would say, when busted by the Labor Department, oh, we had no idea that our contractor had subcontracted to somebody who wasn't paying the minimum wage. And they would punt the responsibility to the factory owner to pay the difference between what the worker actually earned and what they were supposed to earn according to law. It's called wage theft. Well, the state of California now says, too bad for you. The brand is now responsible to make up that difference. And that's enormous because that's holding the brands accountable and saying you've got to be aware of where your clothes are being made.
And similar laws and policies protecting workers are expected to spread past California in the coming years, not just to other states, but in other countries as well.
Germany is looking to have legislation that says you cannot import your clothes into our country unless your factories meet our standards and your workers are paid a living wage and you meet our environmental standards and our safety standards. And if that passes in Germany, that could then ripple across all the EU. And I know that there is talk in the EU of passing similar legislation saying, you want to bring it into Europe, you've got to meet European standards. And the same in the UK. And if that happens, that's going to force the factories to up their games because they don't want to lose those markets. They're really important.
Placing a widespread ban on imports from companies that don't meet the wage standard is game-changing. It forces fashion brands from the get-go to pay all workers, no matter where they are, a fair wage. Thomas says this and other new policies in the industry will ultimately result in more manufacturing making its way back to the U.S.
So workers are working in safe factories, and the carbon footprint of these clothes won't be so enormous because they won't be shipped back and forth around the world. They'll be made close by their headquarters and sent to markets where not far from where they're made. And that already will have a really positive impact on the environment.
The marketing behind Shein, Boohoo, ASOS, H&M, and other fast fashion brands can be enticing. The endless quantities of trendy clothes for cheap may seem like a good deal and a nice treat, but think about the practices you're supporting by buying these clothes. Quality rather than quantity should be the goal here. Why spend time, energy, and money on a piece that will break down in a few washes? The next time you shop, choose to invest rather than to buy on an impulse. If you're on a tight budget, head to a second-hand shop to thrift some clothes. There's nothing better than finding a unique piece at a discount and giving it a second life. To find out more about this topic and our guest, Dana Thomas, visit viewpointsradio.org. This segment was written and produced by Amira Zaveri. Studio production by Jason Dickey. I'm Marty Peterson. Coming up next week.
I think most people would struggle to tell you what their military budget is, how many people are in their military.
The divide between service members and the public. Then,
the U.S. spends a minuscule amount on early child care and education, $500 per year per toddlers.
Navigating the realm of parenting with little support. I'm Marty Peterson.
And I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about upcoming shows and find a library of past programs on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and more information about our guests at viewpointsradio.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Viewpoints.